Happy full moon, alchemists. This is a lunar eclipse and it's super packed with karmic energy. This lunar eclipse happens on Saturday, October 28th at 1:28 p.m. Pacific time, Los Angeles, at 4:28 p.m. New York, at 9:28 p.m. London time, and in Sydney, this happens on Sunday at 7:24 a.m. And the reason why this lunar eclipse is super packed with karmic energy is for two main reasons. The first one is that this lunar eclipse happens just 3 days before Samhain, commonly known as Halloween, and Dia De Los Muertos. Now, our ancestors all over the world celebrated this time as a connection time with our ancestors. So if we think about the pagans of Ireland, the Celtic people, they actually used to see the Samhain period, which eventually became Halloween, as the time when the veil between the dimensions was at its thinnest, and they would use this time to connect with their ancestors. So don't be surprised if you end up having dreams with loved ones who have crossed the veil, because keep in mind that when we transition and we die within this physical form, the soul does not die. The soul transitions into another state of being, just like a caterpillar. The caterpillar, yes, it dies in one way, but it morphs and transforms into a butterfly. And this is just the cycle of life. There's not really a death. Just like when a star explodes, the star explodes, but then it creates the birth of new stars. Our ancestors celebrated Samhain as this time of connecting with our ancestors, but this is not only in Europe. All over Latin America, this festival is also celebrated, except it's called Dia De Los Muertos. And in Central and South America, this is actually a holiday on November 1st or 2nd. So you have to keep in mind that full moon energy peaks 3 days before and 3 days after the moon becomes full. And so it's not like one day that this portal is open, that this energy is active. And because this is a lunar eclipse, eclipses usually affect us for a period of 6 months. And because this is also the Samhain and Dia de los Muertos celebration, this portal will peak until about November 8th. So you can work with this energy all the way up until November 8th. What's so fascinating about this is that this period of celebration where we connect with our ancestors, again, it's not just in Europe, but it's also in the Americas and in other parts of the world as well. The collective consciousness, when it focuses on connecting with those who have crossed the veil, it makes the energy highway bigger for more of these beings to come and connect with us. So this is where we are active participants within our universe. And just like when we have the 1010 portal, 1111 portal that's coming up in November, we are collectively creating those portals because yes, numerology is very real, but we have to keep in mind that the Gregorian calendar is also an artificial calendar. But because of the collective consciousness, we are helping to create these portals. And so that's why this ancestral karmic portal is going to be powerful during this lunar eclipse. The other reason is because Saturn, which is the Lord of Karma, actually goes direct on November 4th, which is just 6 days from this full moon. So the Saturn influence is very much focusing on karma. And usually when we think about eclipses, the eclipses that come at the full moon, they will usually be connected to karma. Now, this is where you have to use your discernment, because for some of you, it will be more of a focus on your individual karma. For others of you, it will be focused on your ancestral karma. So pay attention to what messages come up leading up to this lunar eclipse. Some of the ways that you can connect with your ancestors is by having the traditional altar that they have for Samhain and for Dia de los Muertos. Maybe print out some pictures. If you don't have pictures of your ancestors or those who transition, don't worry. You can just write their names, or you can have a crystal that represents their energy, and you can make some offerings for them. What we do in Bolivia, where I'm from, is we have this practice where we will cook their favorite meal. and we'll put their favorite snacks on the altar. And so just do whatever feels in alignment for you. You can write a poem to them, you can sing to them, you can dance with them. Just find a practice that really resonates with you. There's not like one right way to connect with your ancestors. There's many different ways. For me personally, what resonates with me is I will play music from the Andes and I'll connect with my ancestors in that way. I'll light some candles and then I like to dance. And also sometimes I would like to drink Bolivian tea as well. So that's how I connect with my ancestors, and I always send them love. There's many different things that we can do with our ancestors, but definitely give them gratitude for making us the people we are today, right? Because we gotta remember our roots. It's so funny that people talk about the ancestral tree. We are very much expressions of this tree of our ancestors. And so there's the trunk and then the branches, and we come from those branches. So in a way, we're kind of the seeds of our ancestors. So it's important for us to honor them and just honor them in a way that feels in alignment with your soul. We're actually hosting a full moon lunar eclipse ceremony and meditation where we will be connecting with our ancestors and do an alchemy ritual to heal our ancestors and free them from their karmic loops that they may be stuck in. So if you're interested in that, you can find more information about the ceremony in the description of this video. One other thing to note is that the nodes of the moon are shifting. So this shift happens every 1.5 years. And so this lunar shift is also bringing an end to many cycles. So think back to what was happening in November 2021, because that's when we had the last eclipse within this 1.5 year cycle. So again, practice discernment. One of the ways that you can practice discernment is just to pay attention to the signs that are always coming in, because the signs are always there. It's just a matter of tuning into the right frequency, becoming present into the moment, into your body, and bringing all of your consciousness into the now will bring more of the truth into your soul's path. So it can be maybe songs that come on for you in the radio. It could be dreams that you're having. It could be conversations that you're having that will signify whether it is important for you to focus on individual karma or on ancestral karma. This is also a wonderful time for you to connect with your Akashic records. So the Akashic records, it's sort of like a library of our souls that have recorded everything we have ever experienced, not just in this lifetime, in also past lifetimes and parallel lifetimes. So if you know how to do that safely, this is a great time for you to focus on that. If you don't know how to do that safely, then you can watch my alchemy workshop in the description of this video that goes more in depth into how to access past lives, future lives, and parallel lives in a safe way. Now, let's take a moment to talk about this Saturn influence, because after all, this lunar eclipse, this full moon happens on Saturday, which is governed by Saturn. Saturn goes direct on November 4th. Again, this is just 6 days from the lunar eclipse. And this is why the Saturn influence is gonna be making such a big impact on this full moon energy and what you're experiencing in your own soul journey. So Saturn is the lord of time, the lord of karma. It governs structures, hierarchy, rules. And one of the things to be mindful of as we see the global war unfolding, not just in the Middle East, but what's happening behind the scenes, is this idea of Saturn is very much about limitations and restriction. Now, this can be expressed in a more expanded vibration and a more contracted vibration. So for example, if you limit yourself, if you restrict yourself, let's just say you're restricting how much social media you're consuming so that you have more time to spend on your other hobbies or with your family, right? So restriction would be seen as empowering in that sense. This higher expression of limitation and restriction is self-mastery. Can we really master our impulsive actions? So that is the more expanded expression of Saturn. The more contracted expression, I don't want to call it lower expression because we're moving out of hierarchies, right? What's higher and what's lower, we're done with that and we're moving past that. Now we're entering a period of transcendence. So the more contracted experience with Saturn, if you don't alchemize the energy, is experiencing being controlled, being manipulated. And we already know that that's already happening with the media, with governments and everything, right? But it's about calling our power back. How can we practice discernment to avoid being manipulated? And so keep these things in mind, like process them. Take some time after this video, maybe tonight, to just journal or go for a walk and just allow your mind to process all of this. How can I call my power back more? How can I practice more restriction, more limitation in empowering ways that will actually result in more freedom? Because that's one of the things that I struggled a lot with, is like, I love my freedom. I'm like very strong Aries energy, and I would like to just do whatever I want. But then I realized that a routine and me having routines and rules in place actually gave me more freedom long term. And so just take some time to meditate on this, to self-reflect. All right, so now let's get into the actual full moon energy. So within tropical astrology, this full moon is in Taurus, and within sidereal Vedic astrology, this full moon happens in Aries. So we have this earth and fire energy, and as always, remember to connect with the energy directly to see how it feels for you. You might find it helpful to look at your own astrology chart to see how this full moon will specifically influence you. But here are some things to keep in mind to prepare you to work with this full moon in the most optimal way. Taurus is this earthy energy. It's very grounded, and one of the more expanded expressions of Taurus is that they're very grounded, right? They're very loyal, they're very stable. But if we look at the not lower expression, but the more contracted expression of Taurus, is that sometimes too much of this can be turned into stubbornness or resistance to change. And this Taurus energy also governs finances. So take some time to see what themes are showing up for you. Again, we always feel the full moon energy like few days before. So a lot of these themes are not going to show up to you on full moon day. They're going to be like breadcrumbs that are going to be flowing to you. So be extra mindful leading up to this full moon. As you're doing your reflection, maybe ask yourself, how am I resisting change? Do I have any stubborn beliefs? And this is one of the things also that is influencing the collective consciousness. Eclipses are always a time of fast, powerful change. And if you don't change, oh, trust me, the eclipse will force you to change. And again, we can either move through this flow of change by resisting, but when you resist, it creates more friction and it creates more challenges for you. So if you are noticing yourself maybe not embracing change, ask yourself, how can I alchemize my beliefs about change and actually make them more empowering? Because after all, everything is in a constant state of evolution. Our cells in our skin, they're always dying, and then new ones are always being created. So everything is constantly moving, dying, and evolving. So it's something that is inherent within nature across the board, not just in our physical bodies, but on Mother Earth, right? Right now we're entering the fall in the Northern Hemisphere. We're seeing the leaves, the plants dying, preparing to enter a new cycle of hibernation. And cosmically, we're entering this period of collective human liberation. And that's why there's all of these things about wars and corruption and the truth going up to the surface, and that's only going to intensify once we hit Scorpio season in November. And then within Vedic sidereal astrology, we have this as a Aries full moon. Now Aries is very fiery, it's very impulsive, so be extra mindful of that. That's a more contracted expression of Aries. So the fiery energy can be really helpful, right? We're seeing so much injustice happening around the world. There's the killing of people, and sometimes that does require us to take fast action, but you have to make sure you're taking this fast action in an alignment. So if you feel called to change and to take action underneath this full moon, this whole week before and after October 28, remember to focus on the heart first. Because when we act from the mind space, we act from an ego space, and you want to act from the soul, because whatever actions, whatever words are spoken from the soul are in alignment with your authentic true self. Because the ego is oftentimes reacting out of fear. So that's one thing to be mindful of. If you're going to be having difficult conversations, make sure you tune into the heart and make your ego feel safe before you go and have this conversation or take this action. Aries is also very much about being a leader and then creating new things, starting new projects. Now, full moon traditionally is a time of closing of cycles, and this is also just one aspect of the full moon. Like the full moon, there's so much bright light, and that light can shine into our unconscious so we can see what needs to be brought into the light, what needs to come into our awareness. So once that comes into our awareness, then we can move forward with those relationships and projects, etc., etc. So yes, this can be used as a time to start something new, but more so internally, right? Starting new thought processes, starting new ideating sessions, starting new belief systems and habits, whereas you want to maybe take some time before you actually start to manifest and create your new project, idea, relationship after the full moon. It's just following the cycles of nature. You want to make sure you're being supported by the flow of energy rather than doing things that will make you go against the current of energy. It's not to say you can't do it. Of course, you have free will, you're powerful, you can do whatever you want. But it's about doing things in a more easier way, in a more aligned way. And one of the final things to mention about Aries, the contracted aspect of Aries is being self-centered. So right now, there's so much happening externally, and it's important for us to focus on how can we support the collective. Maybe it's about reaching out to your neighbor and asking them, hey, are you okay? Or hey, do you need food? I cooked extra. Every little thing is going to make a big difference. And especially as we're seeing this war unfold, as we're seeing the atrocities that our governments are doing, it does require us to speak out for those who maybe don't have the same privileges that we do in the countries that we live in, where our voices are heard more so than other voices. So make sure that you're speaking out for humanity. Speak out from a space of love and empowerment. And it's so important for us now more than ever to stand together as one human race and speaking up for the protection of all people. We are transcending the idea of like, you're good, you're bad. We're going beyond that. And one of the most important things that we can do is not point fingers, but rather this is what we need as humanity. And when humanity starts to call its power back from the governments, from the systems that we gave our power away to, and we start to demand from the space of empowerment within, that is when we're going to see real change happen. Because at the end of the day, the governments are meant to be serving the people, not other hidden interests. And on that note, it's also very important for you to spend extra time taking care of yourself. This eclipse energy is super intense, and the collective energy is super intense. The planetary energy is also intense because we have an umbilical cord with Mother Earth, and what we feel, the grief, the pain that we're feeling, Mother Earth is also feeling. So there's actually many different things that affect our healing journey, and you can watch my video that talks in depth about the 5 different things that influence your energy and why it's important now more than ever for you to be aware of that, so that you're aware of why you're feeling super anxious one day or why you're getting sad out of nowhere. It's awareness honestly is so empowering. And so you can watch that video right here, or you can find it in the description of this video. I also recommend that you watch my video, How to Protect Your Energy, because eclipses, the veil between the dimensions is thin. We talked about this energy highway being extra open. And this means that also not so friendly energies can also come in. And again, it's not about being afraid of these things, but it's just being aware of them. So you can watch that video to learn how to practice discernment, how to protect your energy during this eclipse season. This eclipse portal is going to be open until around December, but it will continue to influence us for 6 months. And one of the most important things that you can do is to practice discernment and trust yourself. I'm wishing you an empowering and beautiful lunar eclipse full moon. Much love.